hearing his stuff made me realize that like vulnerability and like honesty in your music is really what's compelling, not perfection. And that is what inspired me to start even releasing music in the first place. So I was like, who cares if it's not perfect? Like, all I care about is that it just continues to get better.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Grooves of Influence. My name's Xavier, your host. And this week, I'm super excited to be joined by Fiona of Whisper Doll. How's it going?
Hey, how are you? Thanks for
Good.
having me.
Good, yeah. So if you were to tell or explain yourself to somebody who's never heard Whisper Doll, how would you kind of explain your music and who you are?
Well, I'd probably start by saying that I was born and raised in Atlanta, and that's sort of where the project started. But it really took off once I moved to New York and found like the right people to start the band with. And now, yeah, we're a Brooklyn-based like indie, like shoegaze, dream pop band. We play a lot of shows in the scene here. Um, And yeah, I'm the lead singer and guitarist. And I'm joined by Maya on lead guitar, Sean on drums, and Julia on bass. And it's like a dream team, to be honest. So I'm really glad that we found each other and have been making music here in Brooklyn.
That's very cool. So how long has that been now that you've been in New York?
I've been in New York for about 4.5, 5 years. But I was in a couple other bands before I sort of continued the Whisperdoll project, and brought it to New York. And this iteration of the band with Julia on bass, because she's our newest member, it's probably been around like 6 or 7 months. But we got signed to like an indie label here in New York, so that's been really pushing us to take things really seriously. And we've definitely like reached like a stride with this group of people, and it feels a lot more cemented in stone that this is like the group. This is Whisperdoll. So that's been really, really exciting.
That's super cool. Yeah, you're definitely in a really cool trajectory right now. I mean, getting signed, I know, is a great feeling. I mean, that's the first, like, it feels like a huge step, right? And I guess just thinking about this project, and I know you mentioned you were in other things. What does this project mean to you?
Gosh, I mean, it's a project I started in my head, like I wrote songs and I released songs actually with Koan, who you had on previously,
Yeah.
and some other friends from high school and stuff. And it wasn't called Whisperdoll back then, but I originally was just like writing and releasing all of these songs that just were kind of, obviously very, very meaningful to me. It was mostly during COVID when I actually started recording and writing stuff, and I was in high school, and you're dealing with all sorts of stuff. It's like it's total uncertainty in the world, and like loneliness, and like just being so confused about your future. And music was like such a wonderful outlet for that. And now, going into adulthood and stuff, like continuing to write these songs and also have like an outlet in the scene here, and have a band of amazing musicians. It's just means the world to me. And it's a project that, I want to be with me for the rest of my life, honestly.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see it happen. So
Oh.
I can't wait to just continue to see what you guys do. But with every episode, I like to ask guest artists a very, very difficult question. And that is, if there was one album you had to choose that's the most influential, just one, what would that be?
It's really hard, but I thought about it for a while. And I guess the most clear answer for me would be Pink Moon by Nick Drake. I've got the CD right here.
Look at that. Very cool.
I'm such
Very
a
cool.
fan. The reason why I chose this album is I wouldn't say it's influential in the terms of like our sound. Like the band's sound is pretty different from Nick's music, but it is really what inspired me to start getting into songwriting. And like I found it at that time I was mentioning, like in high school during COVID, and like not like really sort of honestly getting into music in a very intense way for the first time. And Nick was like one of the first artists where I felt like just like this connection to him. I was like, this is like a different thing than other music that I've heard. Like I just felt such a strong connection to him. So much so that it really inspired the first record that I wrote for Whisperdoll. It was called Perfume Garden, and Perfume Garden was Nick's like first band, or Perfumed Garden. It was his first band, and I think it was like a reference to a poem by William Blake, I believe, the English poet. But yeah, I just found it so inspiring. His music and the way he played guitar was it. A lot of people think it sounds perfect, but I actually think that it's a little bit not perfect.
It's a little dirty. It's fret buzz. There's fret buzz everywhere. I was like, I mean, I dabble in guitar and like hearing it, I'm like, oh, there's a lot of buzz. But I was like, but it adds to the character of the songs, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
totally. That like really inspired me because guitar is definitely like it's a tool for me to write music. I wouldn't say I'm like shredding on guitar at any point, but hearing his stuff made me realize that like vulnerability and like honesty in your music is really what's compelling, not perfection. And that is what inspired me to start even releasing music in the first place. Because I was like, who cares if it's not perfect? Like, all I care about is that it just continues to get better and that I'm being honest and you can hear it in my music. And yeah, I mean, in Perfume Garden, the title track of the record, I quote one of his songs, or I quote like the words on his gravestone, which is from one of his songs, I believe from The Morning, where he says, "Now we rise and we are everywhere." And just that concept of like how connected he was to nature, despite obviously his like super tragic death, and this tragic like trajectory of his music. I could just tell that reading the lyrics and listening to the music, he was so connected to nature and his surroundings and the world. And I had never found an artist that really explained that feeling that I felt, which was like kind of confused by religion growing up in the South and confused by the churches and stuff, and like wanting to feel the spirituality and then finding it in nature. Like I feel like he totally just explained that for me and solidified it in my head. Um, yeah, I love him. I love him so much.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that was interesting that you brought up the nature aspect because listening to the album, like I've listened to Nick Drake many times and like sitting down and really focusing on like some of these lyrical concepts. I'm like, there was a song called I have some notes here, so let me just look real quick. Parasite.
Yeah.
So Parasite was intriguing to me. I don't know what your thoughts are on this song. And I was like, it almost feels like this is a weird guess, but I felt like it was like from a perspective of a mouse almost. Like it could have been like because like he talks about like looking up at people's shining shoes and stuff like that, where like people don't want you and like it's like you're disgusting. Definitely on the streets of like Europe. I mean, I felt like there was like a similarity, and then I started listening to the rest of the album from that perspective. I'm like, what if he's writing these songs in a perspective of the thing, like a different thing, like Harvest Breed? Like, what if he's writing that from a perspective of a plant? Like, I thought that was an interesting concept.
First of all, that's so awesome. I want to try doing that for like one of my songs.
Yeah,
Like, he totally could have been. I've never thought about it that way. I always just sort of assumed it was like this, self-loathingness of like I feel like
yeah,
a parasite, and like, but he could be comparing himself to a mouse, or like feeling like he is a mouse in this world or something. That's really
yeah.
interesting.
It was interesting seeing all the connections to like the natural aspects,
Yeah.
which was really cool. I guess for you, what songs, if anything particularly stands out to you that you kind of like found inspiration from particularly or that you just love?
Yeah. I mean, when I first heard Pink Moon, the title track, I was just like blown away. It's just an incredible song. It's so beautiful. Um and I'd been listening to like Elliott Smith, and like, I'd been hearing that sort of like a little bit dirty guitar, honest songwriting, and I love Elliott Smith, but like Pink Moon was like it brought that honesty while also being kind of shiny and like vibrant and beautiful. So I love that song. But in terms of like lyrical content, I really really like Place to Be, the second track on the record, and From the Morning, just because like you can like he's just such a like a sensitive artist, and you can feel his like craving to find a place in the world, and how hard it was for him, and I don't know, I just love the honesty. I just find it really beautiful in place to be, and then from the morning, it's like that nature aspect of, like, feeling like, we're all connected, and when we die, we're gonna rise up and be with the world again. And that was really comforting to me, especially during COVID. I wasn't, like, I was, like, pretty confused and, like, concerned, that the world was gonna end, and then I would just go sit in my backyard and be like, "Oh, wait, like, there's so many issues that humans have and humans cause, but, like, as long as we have the trees, as long as we're in the backyard with the trees and we have, like, a place to be in that sense." So,
Yeah.
yeah.
And you keep mentioning honest songwriting. And for yourself, how do you capture that? Because it can be complicated, I imagine.
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I always start out completely by myself,
Hmm.
um, with, like, an acoustic guitar, normally really late at night just because that's when my brain is, like, in that place. Um, and I don't know, it's funny because like, the some songs I write, it's like I don't even remember writing them, so I think it's more of just, like, getting to a place where you're just completely in your own head, and taking that and putting it onto a page. But also just, like, even coming up with something in the moment, like walking down the street, there's something very beautiful about, like, how honest that is. Like, it just, like, came
Hmm.
to you, like, because of the circumstances you were in that moment and, like, the thoughts ruminating in your head, like, a melody just, like, appeared. That to me is, like, incredibly honest, and if that doesn't happen, that's, totally fine too. You can always just, like, twiddle around on the guitar and see what comes up from that. But yeah, honestly, I try not to force myself to write. I try and write when it comes to me, and I think that that also helps me, with, like, the honesty element. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess, is there a song you can think of, particularly where that occurred? Like where you were just like doing something and the song came to you, or the beginning of something?
Yeah, a lot of the songs on the record we're working on right now, I somehow started from, like, some sort of just, like, coming to me. Like, a lot of melodies come to me just, like, walking around. Um,
How do you get them down? Are you like, I gotta pause and go write it down, or do you like write music? Are you more by ear? Like, what's that for you?
I'm definitely by ear. I'm not, classically trained by any means, but, I am, like, a voice memo person, so I'm walking around, I'm, like, in New York, like, pretending to be on a phone call, and I'm just, like, singing into my phone. I do that a lot. Um, and if it's, like, words, which sometimes words come naturally, sometimes less so, but, I just have, like, a journal where I'll just, like, if I'm feeling some type of way, I'll just, like, fill out the pages and just free write and then take something from that and turn it into a song.
Yeah, that's cool. I guess going back to kind of the original question, I'm kind of curious on how did you come across this album? Like, if you hadn't heard it before, do you remember?
That's such a good question. I don't know because my parents introduced me to a lot of, like, cooler music, like the Elliott Smith. I have, like, all my dad's old CDs and stuff of, like, when he was, like, a kid in San Francisco, like, going to shows and stuff. I have, like, a lot of recommendations from him, but Pink Moon, I don't know where that came from. I'm trying to remember. I just remember listening to it in this one very specific spot in my backyard, and like, I remember finding like, I don't really remember finding it, but, like, I definitely remember listening to it, so I don't know. It
Yeah,
just
what was that spot in your backyard? Like, is it a bench or?
no, it was just, like, it's, like, in between these bushes and the back like, the grass sort of slopes down, so it's nice to, like, lay on it. And actually for Perfume Garden, the title track to the last record that I was mentioning, I had my mom I was in New York and I we were working on the album, um, and I had my mom go into that spot, like, go stand right in that spot and record audio from it at night, and that's the opening to the track. It's like, the opening to Perfume Garden is these, like, cricket sounds, and you can hear, like, leaves, and, like, you can actually, like, hear her breathing too, which is super meaningful for me, like, to have that on the record as well. So, that's the spot where I first listened to Pink Moon. It's obviously such a big inspiration. I love this record.
No, that's awesome. Um, and you mentioned kind of starting to do music in high school and like you started recording. I mean, what was that experience like kind of transitioning? Because I mean, from talking to other artists, it's a big step and it's a scary step sometimes to, take that go forward and really start making this like a real thing. And so what was that process like for you?
Yeah, I got lucky in some ways because I was just surrounded by so many talented musicians. Like I did choir and theater and I did all of these things where I would meet these people and I was always just blown away. Come On is a great example. Like all of the boys in Penelope Road were like in we were all in various bands in high school together. And yeah, I had a friend who was out. I think he was from like outside of the city, but he was working at a studio nearby, and he had like a super cheap day rate. And he's like, "Yeah, come record." So I ended up like recording in a studio for my first like actual demo or record, which was really lucky and really awesome. And I had tried previously to record myself and produce myself, and I just honestly really didn't like it. I really liked the collaboration part,
Yeah.
so it ended up working out definitely for me.
Another interesting thing about this album I found was the unique song structures,
Mhm.
like where there aren't traditional structures. Have you incorporated that type of thing into your own music? Do you know if that's like directly been used or?
I actually tend to like, a pretty standard pop structure just because it makes so much sense in my head of like the journey of a song.
Yeah.
And I think he does a lot of that as well, but yeah, there's some where he's like just repeating the same melody over and over again. And I think that that's really cool and impactful and something I want to use. Yeah, I've used all sorts of different song structures, but normally, yeah, it comes out where I'm like, this is definitely going to be the chorus. Like, this has got to be a verse. And like, we use instruments to like shape the song in that way and make it all interesting, despite using a more like pop structure.
Yeah. In saying that, using instruments to shape the sound, like can you think of specific times where you like made a choice instrumentally to kind of help tell the story of a song?
Yeah. We, the title, or not the title track, the first track on Perfume Garden is called Divine Child. And it's kind of, I forgot the name of the structure, but it's basically repeating the chorus three times. Um, and I really wanted it to be like this like magical entering into a garden track, like this intro that sort of laid the groundwork for the record. And I remember we used violin, we used a lot of like sparkly effects on guitars and stuff. We used swells, we used a lot of harmonies. Um, So yeah, I think I'm always trying to, and the band is always trying to incorporate different instruments, different sounds to sort of tell the story. And one song I'm working on right now called Air. Um, for the next record, we're using these like marimbas and bells, and I just want it to be like airy, like sort of capture the moment that I wrote it and where I wrote it and what it's about, using like the storytelling of different instruments. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like definitely something you focus on. And, kind of expanding, to having, these solidified band members. What is that like writing songs now with these people like consistently?
It's been really awesome. Yeah, it's like they totally get the vision and they bring so much to the vision of it all. And like I said, I still tend to write out the song like acoustic, structurally, and then they'll just bring in like all of these amazing like elements, feedback and different sounds, and they totally take the song and like make it a song, like it's like me in my bedroom at 3 a.m. with like an acoustic guitar, just like whispering into a mic, and then all of a sudden it's like this full sound. They totally add so much to it. Um, so yeah, it's been amazing, and it's been amazing to like almost know and trust that they understand the vision and that they can bring so much more to it and like expand it.
Hmm. Yeah, thinking back to the album Pink Moon, Nick Drake also, I think, I don't know, this is my opinion. I think he uses like different vocal delivery in some of these songs. Like sometimes he's quick, with his kind of vocal delivery. Like there was a song, it really reminds me, are you familiar with the artist Jose Gonzalez?
No, I'm not.
Okay, Jose Gonzalez is like a folk artist. He's really, really fantastic. And there was a couple songs that really sounded similar. And Jose Gonzalez, his delivery is sometimes pretty quick. And then other times, it kind of feels like Nick Drake slows down and it's kind of like letting it kind of just like be and like let it be airy. And I've noticed that like listening to your music, like you use a lot of different like vocal deliveries. Like you like use some whisper and some like other like different things, which is super cool. Could you kind of talk about that and kind of the thought process around, kind of playing with different ways of delivering vocals?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I love to sing, so I'm glad that, the different vocal delivery sort of comes through. I honestly think that stems from like a theater background. Like I really, really believe that a song should tell a story, not necessarily like directly through lyrics or anything, but just like in the world building of the song itself. And vocals are so much a part of that. Um, and yeah, I think maybe without even really thinking about it, tend to deliver vocals differently just based on what the song's about. Um, and yeah, using whispers is also super fun. It
Yeah.
gives like,
Is
you
that
know,
where the name comes from, Whisperdoll? I mean, how did that kind of come to be?
the name, well, actually the name is from this movie Daisies, which is like this like new wave, like Czechoslovakian kind of crazy movie. I think from 1966. And it's about these two girls and they basically just like decide the world is rotten, so we're gonna just ensue chaos and like be crazy. And it was the first time I ever saw like women represented like that. Like they were just so free and they just like did whatever they wanted. It doesn't really have much of a plot, but it's just this beautiful, beautiful movie that expressed, that sort of freedom and there's a lot to it. But in the beginning, they have this like whispery conversation about how they feel like dolls in a world, and like I remember feeling like, especially when I named the band, like I really related to that, like kind of feeling like there's very little agency that you can have, especially like as a young woman. Like it felt like for me, like it was really hard to, yeah, like have agency. And I was really inspired by the movie itself and just like the concept of just sort of like doing what you wanted and creating chaos. Um, yeah, that's where the name comes from.
That's cool. Do you think this band is a form of giving you that agency? Is that kind of how this kind of all connects?
Yes, I never even thought about it like that, but we definitely. And building a community as well. 'Cause I started writing music at this time, COVID, whatever. I was like super lonely and was really craving community and going to shows and all of that. Um, and I always wanted to be a part of like a music scene, and I'm just really, really grateful to have been like starting to play shows here and getting to know all these other really inspiring musicians and stuff. So it's definitely a way to give my story agency, and I feel really empowered when I'm on stage and working on this stuff. It gives me a lot of purpose. So, yeah, that was a good read.
Yeah, yeah. For artists out there, that are maybe feeling that same way, where they feel like they're alone and they're lacking a community, what would you recommend if you have any to people out there like that?
I think it totally is all about going out to shows, at least in terms of like an actual physical community. Um, Going out to shows, being super open and talking to people and like meeting people. I think when I first moved here, I would see all these shows and I'd be like, oh, that's cool. It didn't even like click to me that like, oh, you think that artist is cool? Like, go to the show, like, check it out, meet them. Um, and so like after, a little bit, I was finally starting to go to a bunch of shows and seeing the same people and meeting them. So I think, building that community is really just about showing up and being kind and asking questions. And a lot of musicians are super open and love to collaborate and love to talk about music and talk about their music and learn about your music. Yeah, another thing I would say is not to worry about perfection, like just put it out there. And I think that what's really beautiful is seeing like a trajectory and seeing someone's music start out somewhere and go somewhere else and have it grow and get better, you know?
Yeah. And I imagine like in a scene like New York, I mean, probably one of the best music scenes in the world. It's intimidating though, right? I mean, did you experience that at all when you started going out and trying to introduce and get involved um in a scene like New York?
It's so huge. That is one thing. It's a really big scene, so it's kind of hard to know where to start. Um, but I think it really is just about like, you know, in the digital age, you find a band you really like, you can listen to them, you can check out and see if you really relate to their music or love the way it sounds, and then um, you know, go see them live and just start small, you know? You don't have to like go to every single show you see, but I think just like getting out there, you're gonna meet someone who also loves going to see music and is gonna recommend another show, and you'll maybe meet a show buddy. So yeah, it can definitely be intimidating, but I think just making the first step, going out there is super important.
Yeah. That's awesome. And if if you were to, you know, leave everybody with one last thing about the album, or if there's anything we've missed so far, what would that be?
Hmm.
Final thought.
Final thoughts. Well, I want to know what your favorite album is.
Oh, that's a good one. If I had to pick one album, it would probably be Roundabout Midnight by Miles Davis.
Ooh,
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah, I've thought about that question a lot. So yeah, it'd be Mr. Miles.
Very nice. Okay, we got to get you on the interview.
Reverses.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. That'd be fun. Um, but yeah, very cool. I guess for everyone, you know, listening who wants to check out your music, wants to maybe see you at a show, how can they do that?
Yeah, I mean we're on Instagram. We post our shows there. We also have a website that I coded with my friend Mia from the band My Veronica. I used her like wireframe. So it's just whisperdoll.neocities.org. So that has like all of our shows updated. Instagram, and then yeah, we can listen on Bandcamp or Spotify or wherever. Yeah, we'll be around playing shows.
Very cool. And you kind of mentioned you're working on an album right now.
Yes, we're going into record in February, so
Okay.
hopefully that'll be out in the fall, summer. We'll
Very
see.
cool. Do you think, I mean, if you can talk about it so far, is it similar to your sound that you've been creating like your last album, or is it kind of a new direction for you?
I think it's similar in many ways, but I'm making it with a totally different group of people and a totally different like team and everything and different location. The last one was in Atlanta. And I've been inspired by a lot of music that I've listened to here and just more music that I've found since writing the first record. So it's definitely an expansion of the sound. Yeah, I'm really excited to see what people think.
No, we're excited to hear it. So can't wait for it to come out. And make sure to, you know, follow Whisperdoll guys and follow Fiona as she continues on her music journey. And I want to say thank you for being on the podcast and sharing your stories and talking to us today.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. It's so
Yeah.
fun.